The Lighthouse on Featherwind Isle. Part 1. Arrival at Featherwind. I first arrived on Featherwind Isle aboard a little ferry boat that chugged along like a cat purring in the sun. The breeze was warm, the gulls lazily spiraled above, and the sky was a gentle shade of apricot. I had left the noise of the city behind, craving stillness, and now all I could hear was the soft slap of water and the rustle of distant trees. Part 2. Meeting the keeper. The lighthouse keeper, Mr. Alder, met me with a smile and a thick wool sweater. His beard was white as foam, and he smelled faintly of sea salt and lavender. "Not many come this way," he said, his voice as calm as the tide. He handed me a cup of warm tea that tasted of honey and something old and comforting. Part 3. The cozy room. My room was at the top of the old keeper's house, with a round window that looked out to the endless sea. The bed was soft, the sheets smelled of sun-dried cotton, and a gentle creaking of old wood lulled me as I unpacked. I found an old book on the nightstand titled Tales of the Tides. Part 4. Morning Mist. Morning came with mist blanketing the island. Everything felt wrapped in soft wool. I stepped outside and couldn't see more than a few feet ahead, but the scent of wet earth and herbs drifted from the garden. Mr. Alder had made oat porridge with cinnamon and pears. Part 5. The Spiral Staircase. I was invited to climb the spiral staircase of the lighthouse. Each step echoed softly as we ascended. The walls were lined with photographs of seabirds, old maps, and pressed flowers. At the top, the lens sat like a glass crown, quiet now, but still noble. Part 6. Feathered Visitors. One afternoon, the island was visited by hundreds of starlings. They moved as one, a shifting cloud of feathers and grace. I sat on a driftwood bench and watched them dance, their murmuration casting soft shadows on the grass. Part 7. Messages in Bottles. Down by the shore, I found bottles tucked into rock crevices. Inside were letters, some decades old. Most spoke of dreams, wishes, and poetry. Mr. Alder said it was a tradition here, to send thoughts out to sea for the moon to read. Part 8. The Ticking Clock. In the hallway was a large clock that ticked like a heartbeat. Mr. Alder said it was over 120 years old and had never once stopped. Its rhythm matched the waves, slow and steady, like a lullaby for the walls. Part 9. Tea with Time. Afternoons were spent sipping herbal tea with wild mint and bergamot. We played old card games and listened to vinyl records that crackled gently. Time seemed to drift here, as though the island existed slightly outside the rest of the world. Part 10. The Garden of Glow. At night, the garden behind the lighthouse glowed with bioluminescent fungi. Pale blues and greens shimmered in the underbrush. I tiptoed barefoot through it, feeling as if I'd wandered into a dream painted in watercolor. Part 11. The Library Nook. I discovered a hidden nook behind a bookcase in the lighthouse basement. It held hundreds of books, nautical charts, poetry, old journals. There was a rocking chair and a lamp with a scarf draped over it, casting gentle golden light. Part 12. The Moon Bell. Mr. Alder showed me a small brass bell tied to a string outside the lighthouse. "It only rings on full moons," he said. That night, under the silver glow, it rang once, a soft chiming sound like a lullaby from the sky. Part 13. Letters to the Sea. Inspired, I wrote my own letter and slipped it into a bottle. I told the sea about my dreams and how peaceful I felt here. I tossed it out past the rocks, where the waves caught it gently, as if in welcome. Part 14. Drowsy Days. The days passed like a quiet stream. I napped in hammocks, fed crows who visited daily, and watched clouds shapeshift for hours. Even the storms here were soft, rain tapping on the roof like fingers tracing lullabies. Part 15. Farewell, for now. When it was time to leave, Mr. Alder handed me a jar of dried tea leaves and a feather from a seabird. "You'll come back," he said with a wink. As the ferry pulled away, the lighthouse blinked slowly in the mist, like an eye falling asleep. The Village Where Time Forgot. Part 1. The Hidden Path. It all began with a wrong turn during a countryside walk. I'd wandered off the main trail, following the distant sound of a flute, and found myself standing at the edge of a mossy stone archway. Beyond it stretched a narrow, winding path lined with foxgloves and whispering trees. It was as if time itself paused there, the wind holding its breath. Something gentle urged me forward. Part 2. The Village Appears. The path led me to a clearing where the light shimmered differently, and nestled within a dip in the hills was a village that didn't appear on any map. Thatched roofs peeked out from beneath ivy, cobbled lanes wound between cottages, and flower boxes overflowed with blooms in impossible colors. I stepped across the village boundary and felt a hush fall over the world. Part 3. The Clockmaker's House. My first stop was a little house shaped like a teapot. It belonged to the village's clockmaker, Ms. Bellamy, who invited me in with a smile and a cup of vanilla-scented tea. Her walls were filled with ticking clocks, but none of them showed the same time. "Time doesn't matter much here," she said. "We measure life in moments, not minutes." Part 4. The Bakery That Dreamed. Next door, a warm buttery scent led me to a tiny bakery called Loaf and Lullaby. Inside, loaves of bread rose slowly in enchanted ovens, and the baker, an old man named Hugo, told me the recipes came to him in dreams. He gave me a slice of lavender honey loaf that made my eyelids heavy and thoughts soft. Part 5. The Whispering Library. In the heart of the village stood a library built from driftwood and glass. Inside, books lined every surface, and a gentle voice whispered stories as you read, as if the pages themselves sighed out their tales. I spent the entire afternoon there, curled in a velvet chair, reading stories that seemed to be written just for me. Part 6. The Floating Market. Every seventh evening, the floating market arrived, drifting gently on wooden platforms tethered to lantern-lit posts in the river. Vendors sold feathers that hummed lullabies, jars of moonlight, and maps to places you'd only dreamed of. I bought a bottle of Sleepy Rain and a charm said to bring calm dreams. Part 7. The Candlemaker's Secret. I met a candlemaker named Marin, who crafted candles that burned with memories instead of flame. She handed me one labeled First Snowfall, and as it flickered, I felt the chill and joy of a snowy morning long past. Her shop smelled of pine, cinnamon, and distant laughter. Part 8. Nights by the Pond. Each night, I walked to the lily pond at the village's edge. Fireflies hovered like floating stars, and frogs crooned soft lullabies. On the third night, I saw a deer with silver antlers standing quietly in the mist. It watched me with calm eyes before disappearing silently into the trees. Part 9. The Bell of Stillness. At the top of a hill was a bell tower that rang only once a week, on the sleepiest afternoon. The bell's tone was deep and gentle, sending a wave of calm across the village. Birds stopped mid-flight. Conversations paused. Even the wind grew quiet. Part 10. The Tailor of Dreams. I met a tailor who stitched dream fabrics into robes and scarves. One robe shimmered like stardust, another pulsed softly like a heartbeat. She let me try on a scarf that made me feel like I was floating. "We wear what we long for," she said, "what we hope to become." Part 11. Letters in the Leaves. In the autumn grove, leaves carried messages written in curling script. Some were jokes, some were poems, others tiny stories. Villagers would collect them and trade over tea. I found one that read, "You have already arrived. The journey is simply remembering." Part 12. The House That Hummed. A house by the stream gently hummed when I passed by. Its owner, a musician named Elias, explained that the house was tuned to the key of his heart. When he was happy, it sang. When he was sad, it whispered. He played a lullaby on a flute made of birch and moonlight. Part 13. The Sleep Festival. Once a month, the village held the Sleep Festival, where everyone wore silk pajamas and shared bedtime stories in the square. Cots and hammocks were laid out under glowing lanterns. Children and elders alike fell asleep listening to soft voices telling tales of kindness, stars, and home. Part 14. The Farewell Garden. Before I left, I visited the Farewell Garden, a place where people planted their goodbyes. Blossoms grew in colors that only memory could name. I planted a seed wrapped in a note, "Thank you for letting me rest." As I turned to leave, the wind picked up and the petals danced. Part 15. Return to the World. When I stepped back through the archway, the modern world returned. Cars in the distance, the buzz of time. But something inside had shifted. I I still had the bottle of sleepy rain, and every night since, I dream of the village. Maybe one day, if I listen closely enough, I'll hear the bell of stillness ring again.